Well, good evening, folks, or good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Quincy Kane here, and this is live stream number 137. And to my fellow Americans, I hope you're having a happy Independence Day. I hope you can enjoy a good burger and maybe later check out some fireworks when it gets dark. But for this particular stream, we're going to have a look at some things in my process. Those of you who have been watching my streams for a while, you know I get up here, I play guitar and I sing, but I have a backing track with me. It's like I'm playing with a full band. I've got the drums and the bass and the other guitar layers, and that's how I'm able to perform, even though it's just my voice and my guitar that I'm playing with. And I thought I would share with you guys how I set that up, how I go about doing that. And this is something that you can use for multiple applications. It's not just something that you have to do for live stream performing. This is kind of what goes into just being able to make your own demos or just your own jam tracks if you want to play with, and just kind of something to you could practice lead guitar over it or play a drum beat along with it, whatever your instrument is. Maybe you play bass and you just need some other instruments to jam along with. So the stuff I'm going to share here is going to be kind of helpful for that. I'm hoping Adam in the alphabet, that Adam, I'm hoping he shows up, because a while back we were kind of talking about this and we were talking about programming drums. And so I definitely wanted to share some information with him about that. And we're going to talk all about that. But let's catch up with the chat here. And hopefully I'm coming through all right, because I have kind of a different setup for this. And I'm not actually planning to perform this evening, but I may be recording some vocals for the examples that I have, and I may be recording some guitar parts for those examples as well. So it's kind of like a little bit of a performance, but a lot of it's just kind of sharing sort of an overview, and hopefully you guys will find this stuff interesting. So Jack and I were just talking. Jack, hope your health is doing well, saying the MRIs are for multiple scenarios or multiple sclerosis. Yeah. I have to walk with a cane now. I do recall you saying that, and the neurologist is concerned with my walking. My depth perception has been caput, I'm not sure if I know what that is, for a while now. I can hear you. Okay, well, I'm glad I'm coming through all right. And yeah, I do know you've been using a cane, and hopefully the MRIs can help give you some positive news so that you won't have to rely on that so much anymore. But I'm continuing to pray for you and hoping everything comes back looking good. All right, so we're not going to delay too long, but if anyone's coming in, don't be shy. Just say hello. And Jack, I'll kind of show you what I got going on here. I'm going to bring up this window. So I brought this up a few times before. But basically what we have here, this is the software that I use for making music. And this is what I have set up whenever I'm performing. You can even see, hey, see those audio levels in the bottom left corner there. Whenever I speak, that's telling me the amount of volume that's coming through whenever I speak. And what I use, it's called Logic Pro. That's the name of the digital audio workstation that I used, DAW for short, D-A-W. There's a lot of different DAWs out there. The one I use is Logic Pro, and it's actually an older version. It's Logic Pro 9. Logic Pro 10 has been out for several years now, and I think I got Logic Pro 9 like right as Logic Pro 10 came out, and I've already kind of gotten used to this, made templates, so haven't really been in a rush to update things, but someday I'll have to bite the bullet, and I'll have to make that change. But until then, hanging out with Logic Pro 9. But there are other ones, some other popular ones. There's Pro Tools. I think Adam said he uses Studio One. There's Ableton Live, Reaper, GarageBand. That's kind of like a more compact version of Logic Pro, and that one comes free for Mac users. And but yeah, there's a lot of different ones, and basically all it is, it's just a software, it's just a program that allows you to manipulate audio. So you can record audio. Hey, Adam's here. Hey, I was hoping you'd be here, Adam, because yeah, we're gonna be talking about, you and I were talking about this a while back, talking about programming drums and making backing tracks and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm gonna share with you. I'm gonna show you kind of my process. We're gonna start super simple and kind of show how you can build off of it and get a little more complex with it. So definitely glad you were able to tune in. But I'm just getting started, so hope you're doing well, Adam. Again, the program I use here is Logic Pro, and yeah, this is a program. It just allows you to record audio, and you can edit the audio. You can add effects to it and manipulate it in different ways, and yeah, basically it's perfect for producing audio for whatever kind of project, but usually music is what it's used for. Adam, if I remember correctly, I think you said you use Studio One. And so I'm kind of going to get started and just kind of talk about the process. So one thing I'll do is, as I've been working on projects, and you can do this too, as you work on projects, you kind of come up with, you dial in certain settings, and they can be very helpful, or you might be pleased with how they came out, and so you want to save that stuff. So a lot of times I'll make templates, and that's kind of what this is. Basically what I have here is a writing template. Now I already have some audio in here. If you see like these little lines here, these red lines, those are the audio files. These green ones up here, that's technically audio as well. It's actually MIDI. I'll talk about that in a second. But main point is it makes music. That's what that is. They're different music tracks. You can see this top one here is my writing kit. That's my drum kit. That's what we're going to look at in a moment. And I've got my bass here. I've got the guitars here, left and right. Here's the lead guitars. And even this one down here, this is, if I can select it. There we go. That's my mic. That's actually me, what I'm speaking through right now. So let's see, catching up with the chat. Okay, kaput means gone. All right, cool. Well, thank you for defining that for me. And if any of you have questions at any point, let me know. So Adam, definitely let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So again, for templates, I've got this drum kit here, and let me see if I can bring this up. This is kind of what we're going to talk about. We're going to get right into programming drums. And on this template here, I've kind of made my own custom drum kit on here. I've customized the kick drum sound, the snare drum sound, and all the different parts of the drum kit to make my own drum kit. But I'm going to explain how this works. So basically, this is a template that gives me everything I need. It gives me something to make a drum beat with, something to program my bass with, something to track my guitar with. And so if I have an idea, I can just easily use this as a writing template for just writing a song. And then if the song is done, it might not be ready to be released yet, but because usually you want something a bit more polished. But if the song is at least done, like I have the full arrangement and I could perform the song, then I'll use the same project for making a backing track, and usually that's what I will perform with for a while until I get around to releasing the actually releasing the song, and then I will update my backing track and have a more finished product that usually sounds a lot better. So yeah, we'll get into that in just a moment here. When I first started, so when you're first using a program like this, a lot of times it'll come with default stuff. It'll come with drum loops a lot of time. Drum loops, they're just pre-recorded beats, so it might just be something like, and that's it, and then you just repeat that. You can add it into your timeline, and then you can drag it out, and it'll repeat. It'll just go, and it'll just keep repeating that beat. And you can take different beats and put them next to each other and create an actual arrangement out of that, so it's not just the same beat over and over. So that's how I started. When I first got into recording and stuff, I would just use pre-made drum beats, drum loops, and I would just drag them into the timeline and write my guitar parts over them. But now I use a drum machine. That's what this is that I'm using here. This crazy grid thing that you see. I'm going to get into that in a moment. And I create my own drum beats. In fact, when I'm writing, I'd say I mainly write on guitar. Sometimes I'll write on piano, but I'd say guitar is the main instrument I write on. I usually come up with just some kind of song idea and music idea, and once I have that idea, then I like to start recording it, and then I'll start writing a drum beat to it. And just going back and forth from the drums and the guitar, when you hear them together, it kind of gives you like a snapshot of what the song is going to sound like. It kind of gives you an idea, like a feel of the rhythm and the kind of vibe of the song, and the two parts can kind of influence each other. And once I've written those, usually they will influence what the bass part ends up being, and then from there I'll come up with a melody and whatever other parts there might be for the song. So all right, so here we go. We're going to have a look at the drums here. And again, if you have any questions at any moment, just let me know. So what we're looking at here, this grid thingy, this is a drum machine. Now, every DAW should have something. So again, Adam, if you've got Studio One, I do believe it comes with a drum machine. In Logic Pro, this one is called Ultra Beat. That's the name of it. But basically, all it is, you see all these little lines here, you know, these little categories, these are all the different parts of the drum kit. I don't know if you guys can see the text, but this bottom one here says kick, and then a few above that, I've got my snares right here, a few different snare hits, and then I've got some toms, and then I've got my hi-hats, and I've got my cymbals, my ride, you know, just different parts of the drum kit. Now, if you look over, I don't know if you guys can see this over here. I'll kind of hit it, and you can hear the drums. But do you see what I'm selecting here? This on the side here. I don't know if you can tell. That's actually, those are piano keys. If you know what a piano looks like, you can see here's the black notes that I'm hitting right now. These are all the different black notes, and then these are the white notes right here. And so the reason I'm pointing that out is because what the drum machine is, it's actually assigning different parts of the drum kit to piano notes. Now, why does it do that? That's because you could, if you wanted to, you could plug in a keyboard, and then you could hit the notes on the keyboard, and they would sound like the drums. So you could play the beat if you wanted to with an actual piano. And this is where MIDI comes in. So I'll see if I can demonstrate this real quick. But MIDI is M-I-D-I, and that stands for, I actually had to look this up, and to be honest, it's not all that helpful, but MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and that still doesn't really explain what it is, but I'm going to try my best to explain what MIDI is. So if you see these green files over here, these things, if I double-click on this, here we go, and I'm going to bring up this window. So you can see these notes here, and what these notes are, they're MIDI notes, and again, you can see the piano right there. Of course, it doesn't sound like a piano. That's because this is actually a bass. So what this does, let me see if I can, what happens if I select this? Does that? Nope, it doesn't work. Okay. We'll stick with the bass for now. So what this does, basically, you can create a file with these notes. So here's a C note right there, and then here's an E, and here's a D. And so I could select those notes and how they play, and I can hold out how long, you know, the length that you're seeing right there. That's how long the note holds, or here's like a short one right there, if you guys can see that. And so you can choose how long it holds, and you can create this pattern. But then all it's getting is the information of the notes, but then you can choose what you want it to sound like. So even though it's showing piano notes, yes, you could make it sound like a piano, or in this case, you could make it sound like a bass. So now when I hit these piano notes, instead of sounding like a piano, they sound like a bass. Okay? I could send it through a violin. You know, it could be something that emulates a violin. It makes it sound like that. It could be pretty much any instrument. And you can use this for drums. Now, drums, of course, if you hit like a C, it's not going to sound like, it's not going to make a pitch. It's not going to sound like that. But you can assign different drum sounds to different piano keys. So for my drum kit, if I went up here, here we go. Here's like a beat I've already made. My C is my kick drum. So when you hit C, it sounds like a kick drum. And what is this? F? No. E. There we go. Yeah, E is my snare drum. And then this F sharp is my closed hi-hat. This A sharp is my open hi-hat. This high E is a cymbal. You know, so it's all different parts. And basically, you can create a pattern and create a drum beat. So that's kind of what we're going to get into in just a moment here. Let me catch up with the chat. Hopefully, yeah, Adam, you still out there? Hey, Adam. Yeah, hope you're doing well. Again, if you have any questions at any point, just let me know. And, yep, I'm explaining how the drum beat works. So, Adam, tell me, you've got Studio One, if I remember correctly. Please let me know if that's what you have. I think that's what you had said. I remember a while back you were sharing with me, I think you actually have something called the Micro BR80 or something like that. And I looked into that, and that's kind of cool. It's like a condensed little studio, and it allows you to do a lot. It's basically just this little box that you can record into, and you can kind of create drum beats and all kinds of stuff. So cool. Great tutorial, mate. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. But I was looking into that device you had. I think you said it was the Micro BR80, and it's definitely a pretty cool device. I'm not super familiar with using anything like that, and from the few videos I looked up, it does seem like there is a way to create custom beats. I think it has a few pre-made beats that you can select in there, but I think there are ways to create your own custom beats or import beats. So you could use that. But again, if you have Studio One, which you're saying, yes, Studio One. Okay, cool. So Studio One should have something like this. Again, I'm using Logic, but in Logic, there is a drum machine called Ultrabeat. I'm pretty sure I looked up a few Studio One tutorials, and Studio One should have its very own drum machine. That's what you're seeing here, this little grid thing right here. And just as I was explaining, basically the drum machine, it should have piano notes, but instead of sounding like a piano, you're assigning each note to sound like parts of a drum kit. And you can get super in-depth with this because there's more than one kick drum sound. Like, yes, here's my kick drum. You know, that's what my kick drum sounds like. That's appropriate for, you know, rock and metal in that particular genre. But someone might be programming drums for, you know, hip-hop or just pop, or maybe it's a lighter style of rock and they don't want something quite so punchy. It could be country. It could be a different style of music, you know, whatever it might be. So there's different drum sounds, and you can get very in-depth with this. You can even purchase there's probably some free ones out there that you can download too, but you can purchase drum samples, which are basically high-quality drum sounds. So you can buy these kits. I don't know if you're familiar with GGD. That's very popular. Get Good Drums, very popular with metal in that particular genre, and they have a lot of great samples. So if I wanted to, I could purchase a GGD sample kit and import that into my software here. Again, I'm not totally sure how to do that, but I know they have tutorials showing you how to do that. And I could assign the sounds of that kit to match this piano here, and I could assign them to each of these tracks, and then I would have those drum sounds when I go to make my beat. So what we have here, we've got this grid, and the way this works, let's see here. Yeah, Boss Micro BR80, great tool, purchase 2 in case 1 buggers up. And again, it did look pretty cool, the little bit I saw. I'm not super familiar with using something like that, but it kind of looks like a condensed version of basically what I'm demonstrating here. But again, if you have Studio One, you might have maybe a little more flexibility at your option. It almost sounds like the Micro is like an awesome, like kind of survival kit. Like if you just need just the bare necessities in, you know, the bare necessities in like a small package. You got it all right there. You can take it with you, take it anywhere, and just do some songwriting. But if you want to get a little more elaborate, you know, using something like Studio One could be helpful for that. Okay, so the way this drum machine works, you can see we have all these grids here. Like there's all these lines. It's basically 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a little divide, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4. And this goes all the way up to 32. So it's divided evenly, you know, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. And that's giving you basically all the beats that you need, all the space you need, so that you can time your beats. So for example, let's say we do the kick every 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to skip through. So I'm hitting the first. That's why the marker's kind of nice. So I've selected all these. This is all my kick drums. So if I hit play, you're going to hear the kick play on that downbeat. There we go, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I add a kick in between that, it's going to double it up. So it's still the same tempo, but it's going to sound faster because it's playing on more beats now. So instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then if you want to go metal, you can fill in the space between that, and we can get some double bass action happening here. So this should be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. You know, this should be much faster. So there we go. There's some double bass there. Now, that doesn't sound totally realistic when you get there. That's the one tricky thing. When you're programming drums, there are certain things you might have to do to bring back some realism. I'm not going to go too in-depth with that. I might briefly mention it if I have some time, but I'm just going to talk about the basic ways of getting started. And, you know, once you learn how to make a drum beat, then you can worry about how to make it better and build it up. So what do we got here? So, yeah, basically you're able to create your drum beat. Now, there are different rhythms you can change. Like, this is all just in a 4 count, but you can change to like a 12 or 24, get more of like a triplet feel kind of thing. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to stick with this. So let me demonstrate how I would actually use this. Let's see. Let me get this out of the way. So what I've got here, I've got sort of a demo track. I don't have the full song. It's just an intro, a verse, and a chorus. But you guys have heard me perform this. This is actually my song Plastic Cup. And I've gone ahead and left, you can see there's no, up here in this track here, the green starts over here, but there's no, in front of that, there's no drum beat happening. So I've already recorded a guitar part. I'll go ahead and play that so you'll hear that. Here's the main riff. It's just coming out the left side. It's the left guitar. Okay, so that's our intro. All right, so let's say we want to program a drum beat for that intro. All right, so the way this song starts, if you guys have heard it, it's going to start with that guitar part. We're going to have a hi-hat kind of keeping the upbeat. Okay, so that's what we want to make. That's like what we're imagining in our head, and so that's what we want to get going. So let's make that beat. So again, I'm going to bring Ultra Beat back up, and let me catch up with the chat here. Cool. All right, so here we go. So here's how this would work. So we want that hi-hat on the upbeat. So again, that first beat right there, that's the downbeat. So we're gonna go 1, 2. So I think we're doing every other first beat. So let me find my closed hi-hat sound. It's right here, hitting it right there. So it's that track there. I've highlighted it. So all those highlighted grids right there, that's my closed hi-hat sound. So I'm gonna select the beats that it works for. Yeah, Adam says that's awesome. Yeah, it's super great. So yeah, it works great. So here's how it works. So I've got my closed hi-hat sound, and I'm going to select every other beat. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. Let me make sure that's right, so we're going to listen to it. What's nice is in the drum machine, there's a little play button right here that I'm hitting. And that lets you kind of hear it first, but then we're going to drag it into the timeline. So it kind of lets you demo it first before you add it to your track. So here we go. We're going to listen to the demo. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. All right, there we go. We got it. So I'm going to move this over. And to be honest, you guys probably can't see me moving it around. Yeah, but that's okay. So at the bottom here, I don't know if you can see that, if that's coming up, but it says pattern right there, and it says drag arrange to window. So I can click this, and I can drag it over to the timeline there. And you can see we have a new track, that green track that just popped up. So all I did, I'll get that out of the way. There we go. I just added it to the timeline. Now let me adjust it. It should start right here. That's where we want it. So now, if I play the track, we'll hear those first few beats that we just added. Okay, but we just have those first few measures right there, so we need the next few measures, okay? So it starts off the same way. It's going to go, tss, tss, but then it's going to start picking up, tss, 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 okay? So we got the first two, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we want to go 1, and then we're going to do partially opened. So let's see. I think it's this one. Yeah, that's so this selected track, it's kind of partially opened, so we're going to do that one. And then we're going to do the fully opened right here. And then we're going to do kick snare. So again, this bottom one, this is kick. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's and 4. So the beats there, we got 1, 2, 3. The kick is going to be on and, so we want to put it right here in the middle. So here's our kick, and then we're going to hit the snare. And 4. There's our snare. So let's have a listen. Make sure that comes out right. Cool. All right, so let's add that to the track. I'm going to drag that in. And hold on, I hope... Man, I didn't even... All right, I'll show you that one more time. Sorry. In OBS, the streaming platform, I have to bring up the window so you guys can see it. So I'll do that one more time. Okay. So here's what we did have. We just had all our hats on every other beat, okay? But now what we want to do, we have 1, 2, 3, 4... And then we want to go 1, 2, 3, but it's starting to open up. So we're going to do a closed hat there. And then right here, that's a partially opened hat. You can hear, whoops, that's a tom. There we go. And then this next one, we want an open hat. So that sounds like this. And then the kick is on the and. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for the and, here's our kick, and then 4, the snare, which is right there. Okay, so again, I'll play it. Okay, so that should be the right timing. So let me drag that. Oh, I've already dragged it into the timeline, so cool. So there we go. You just drag it into the timeline. And let me get that out of the way. All right, so let's hear what we've got so far. Cool. All right, so it sounds like it's about to really kick into something, okay? So now we want to make, now we're going to make like an actual beat. That's more of like, you know, sort of just keeping the time and getting ready for something, but now we're going to make an actual beat. So same thing, just we're going to select a lot more things. So that's kind of just the, you know, sort of something simple to start with. All right, let's have a look here. All right, so for this beat, we're going to start with the crash. And we're going to hit 2 crashes. So I've got 1 crash right here. It's the left cymbal. We're going to start with that. I kind of think of the left cymbal as my main cymbal. So that's the one I'm mostly going to hit. And then other cymbals are kind of just secondary or alternative cymbals that I might hit when I need to alternate back and forth or when I need to hit 2 at a time. I've got the right cymbal right here. Okay, so we're going to hit both of those at the same time. And we're going to hit the kick with them. That's how you get that big, you know, nice explosive sound. There we go. So that's the kick and 2 cymbals at the same time. So when you're dialing in a beat, this particular beat, I mean, you can go about it any way you want, but the main thing is really the kick and the snare and how that fits with your guitar part and your bass part and all that. So the riff we're playing, the pattern we want to do kick, kicks. Yeah, we're going to do kick, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, kick, snare, kick, snare, okay? So that's 1 and 2. And 4. So it's going to go 1 and 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 4. Okay? So we've got our 1. So we need and. Here's another kick. And then we're going to do 2 with the snare right there. So we got 1 and 2. And then we need and 4. So 1 and 2. Here's 3, but we don't want that. We do want this and, though. Kick, snare. 1 and 2 and 4. Okay. Another way to think about this, we basically just want the snare on that upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can go ahead and just put all our snares in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. There's all our snares. So that's like the basic kind of rhythm we want. Then we can get our kicks in there, just the same pattern. 1 and 2 and 4. So we're going to do that again. 1 and 2 and 4. All right, there's our basic beat. Now, the way that's being played, the kick's being played with the foot. And that's the thing, too. Adam, I don't know if you actually play drums or not. So the nice thing is you don't really have to play drums to do this. But you do want to understand how a drum kit works. So basically right now, that this first part, we've got 3 things being hit at once. So the kick is being played with the foot, and then the right and the left cymbals are being hit with the right and the left hand. So boom. So that's realistic. That's possible. And basically the kick and the snare, we're doing foot, foot, hand, foot, hand, foot, foot, hand, foot, hand. The snare is typically, for most drummers, played with the left hand. That's not a hard and fast rule. There are, you know, left-handed drummers that play the other way, but usually it's played with the left hand. And then the right hand is kind of going to keep the pulse, usually with a hi-hat or a ride cymbal or something like that. So in this case, we're going to use a hi-hat. And like a basic example, like if you wanted to go super simple, the hi-hat's just going to keep the pulse. So we're going to put it on every downbeat. So we did the crash on the first one, but then after the crash, it'd be annoying to keep doing the crash. So we're going to come over to the hi-hat, and the right hand's just going to keep the time on that. So we could hit the hi-hat here, 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 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we would get a beat that sounds like this. Now that's actually not the right hi-hat. That is, It sounds kind of cool, but that's like a partially closed one. We want the fully open one. That's this one right here. So this is the one I meant to do. So I can erase what I just did and put this one in instead. So it's a little more open sounding, a little more energetic. Okay, so there's a very basic beat, and that would totally work for this song. However, I do have a specific beat that I do for this song, so I'm going to get a little fancy. Let's see. I think it was this one. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and hold on. Yeah, 1, 2, da. 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to use the ride and hit the ride and the bell. So I've got a ride here. Okay, so I'm going to hit that right here. And then instead of hitting the hi-hat, we're going to hit a ride bell, which I've got right here. That ding sound. So we're going to hit that. So that sounds like this. So we get 1 and 2 and 3, that ding-ding kind of sound. Okay, and we're going to do that again right here, 1 and 2. So then we're going to get rid of this one, and we're going to do that ding-ding again, that ride bell. There we go. So that'll sound like this. And the reason I'm doing that, so I'll explain why I did that. The first beat would have worked fine, like it's just a good, simple beat. But the fun thing about drums, it's really cool when you can find ways to sync up with the actual riff. So if you hear the guitar riff, 1 and 2 and 3, that and 3 where it's doing the ding, the guitar riff slides up and kind of hits this higher power chord note. So I'll play that, and you'll kind of hear how they match up. So I'm dragging that into the timeline, and let's have a listen to that. So here's what it sounds like right now. Whoops, wrong thing. Let me mute that. Okay. So hear how that guitar riff kind of, when it slides up, you know, it kind of slides up. That ride is sort of accenting that guitar riff. Kind of doing that, all right? So then we just need one more beat in there. I'm going to go ahead and make that. And basically what's going to happen, it's going to continue the beat, but it's going to stop. It's going to go 1 and 2, boom, pop, and we're going to get a little tom roll in there. So let's see here. I'm trying to decide. I can't remember if I had another cymbal hit in there or not. You want to be careful with cymbals. If you do them at the beginning of every single beat, it can be a little redundant. Yeah, you just want to be careful not to do too many cymbals. Okay, so usually what I like to do is, like, when it's the beginning of a section, like it's just kicking in, I'll do 2 cymbals. And then if I'm just repeating a beat, I might just do 1 cymbal. So it's not quite as, not every hit is too big. If you try to make everything big, then nothing sounds big. You got to have some dynamics in there. Have those smaller moments so that the big moments sound even bigger. So rather than, we're going to kind of build off of the same beat that we just made, but we're going to modify it. So instead of having the 2 crashes that we have here, we're going to get rid of this right one. So now it's just the single hit. And let me see. Oh, hey, we got Silas in the chat. Hey, Silas. Happy 4th of July to you as well. Hope you're doing well. Hope you can enjoy yourself a good burger and maybe see some fireworks later or something like that. Silas, I'm just showing how to program drums right now and how I make backing tracks. So if you have any questions during any of this stuff, feel free to ask, and I'll try my best to answer them. So I'm talking about programming drums right now. And we got this beat, so we just got rid of a cymbal. And let's see, it's going to kind of start the same way. But what we're going to do is we want it to stop right there. Boom, bam. We're going to hit a snare on that beat right there. So let's get rid of everything that happens after that right there. So I'm just deleting all these other notes right here. Boom. So it's going to pause. Right there. Bah. And we're going to hit a kick before that, so we're going to add a kick right here. There we go. That's actually good. Yeah, you can hear how it kind of has that sudden stop. Boom, 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 dun, 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 boom, pop. Okay? And then we still got some space here. We're going to add a little tom fill that leads into the next few parts. So I've got a high tom right here, and we're going to do a little do-do-dum-dum-dum-dum. So let's get the timing there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and a 3 and 4 and. So that's the timing. 1, 2, and a 3 and 4 and. So we're going to start 1, 2 right here on the and. And I'm just going to program it really quick. Duh, duh, duh. It's 3 hits. 1, 2, 3. And then like every other beat. And then we'll go to the mid, mid, mid. And then a low tom right there. So let's have a listen to that. There we go. That's what we want. Now again, that might not sound like super realistic. You know, we're hitting 3 of the same toms at the same time. It's like super consistent. So there are things you can do to make that sound more realistic. There's something called velocity. We'll talk about that hopefully a little bit later. I don't know if I'm going to go too in depth, but velocity is basically how hard the sample is being hit. And some samples you might only have just that one sound. So all the velocity does is just turn the volume up and down. But some samples, they'll have multiple hits recorded, so they kind of have like a really hard hit, and then they'll have like a medium hit, and then a softer hit, and then a very light hit. So that way you can kind of program in some more realism, so it doesn't just sound like super perfect and too robotic. So, but this is going to work for now. So we got our little fill there. So I'm going to drag that into our timeline. There we go. And let me get that out of the way. And again, you can see that after the green there, it goes into the light green. That's the rest of the drum beat. That, you know, I went ahead and deleted the intro just so I could demonstrate how to program it. But basically, you just repeat the process for the rest of the song. So let's listen to our intro. And you can hear the other instruments come in there. So what's kind of cool, I want to point out, again, this is kind of how I write a lot. All you're hearing is the guitar and the drums. But I feel like they kind of cover the full spectrum. Like, you can hear that, and even though, like, yeah, it sounds a little empty because you don't have the other instruments, you can still kind of imagine what the song is supposed to sound like. So you know what it's going to sound like when you add other parts in there. And so basically you just repeat that process. You just... I'll kind of play a little more of this. I went ahead and muted the bass. But as it keeps going, you just rinse and repeat. In fact, let me do this real quick. I'm going to bring up the MIDI right here. So these notes that you see on the screen right now, those are the drum beats right there. So this is another way you can edit. Yes, you can edit in the actual drum machine, but you can also select the MIDI. If you just double-click on the file, it'll usually bring up, here's our piano right here, and it's going to sound like a drum kit. If I just click and drag, you know, each of these notes sounds like part of the drums. So you can see our pattern here. Here's our 2 cymbals. Here's our kick. Here's our hi-hat. This is closed. And here's a snare. So I'll play this, and you can watch kind of the drum beat as it plays out. So here we go. Hopefully it's coming through all right. I don't know if there's any like latency, but you get the idea. All right, so there we go. Let me pause that. So yeah, that's you just basically repeat that process for the whole song, and I'll share like one more little tip with programming drums just to kind of get something cool out of it. Let's see here. Yep, Jack was saying, hey, Silas, by the way, happy 4th to all of you Americans. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for for celebrating with us, you know. Silas says, awesome, excited to see how you do it. Cool, yeah, I hope you find this interesting. And Silas, let me know, do you have any kind of recording software? Do you have a computer and something to record into? Again, if you have some kind of Mac, GarageBand comes free. That's like a good one to start with. Again, I use Logic Pro. Adam uses Studio One, but there's all kinds of different recording softwares out there. And yeah, they're a lot of fun because they allow you to make music, you know. So, all right, one little tip I'll give you. Let's look at, I'm going to highlight this section here. Let's look at these 4. Sorry, I soloed myself. Let's look at these 4 drum beats right here. I've highlighted them right there. All right, so I want you to listen closely. So there's kind of a pattern I like to use. Whenever I'm playing like a verse or a chorus, most of the time this pattern works. I like to do this sort of, oh wow. I don't think you guys could hear that, but it is storming out there. There was just a big rumble of thunder. So hopefully I don't lose my stream in a moment here. Hopefully it'll be okay, but it sounds like a storm's brewing outside. Okay. So I kind of use this A, B, A, C pattern. Now, here's what I mean by that. So let's say this first beat that I've selected here, let's say that's our A pattern. Okay? So it starts with the crash, and it kind of plays this, you know, that's the beat, okay? So that's our A pattern. Then we're going to go to a B pattern. Usually the B pattern is very similar, but you're going to leave the crash out. So you just stick with that hi-hat, and usually it ends with like a very tiny fill at the end. So let's listen to our B pattern, which would sound like this. So notice it went boop, bop, boots, like at the end there, okay? So let me repeat that. So the first pattern, listen, it's going to start with the crash and play the beat. Then the second pattern is going to play the same beat, but no crash, but a little fill or a little accent at the end. So here's A, B. All right, now the third beat is the same as the first one. So check this out. I'll play it. It's going to have that crash, and it's going to play the same beat as the first one. Okay, so A, pattern B, pattern A, and then finally the last pattern, it's similar to pattern B, but usually it'll have a bigger fill at the end. So let's have a listen to that. Okay, so again, here's pattern B, very similar, but like a small little accent at the end. Here's pattern C, similar to pattern B, but a bigger fill at the end. Okay, so that's a really simple pattern that kind of keeps your drums from sounding too repetitive. Because, like for example, let's say I only used pattern A. So I'm going to move these down here and mute them. I could loop that same beat. So here we go. So I've got pattern A, but it's just repeating over and over again. Let's have a listen to that. So it's a little redundant. It's just the same beat, and we can add the guitar. But if you're like me, that crash is a little distracting. It's just happening too much. So by adding in those variations, we can keep it interesting. It's still serving its purpose. It's keeping the pulse, keeping the beat, but it's not too distracting. It's not too redundant. You know, there's enough variation in there to keep it interesting. So here's with the variations. Also, whenever I do program in like a little accent or a little fill, I usually try to help it fit with the guitar riff or something happening in one of the other instruments. So that way it's, it sounds like it belongs and it's not just some random fill. So there we go. That's basically programming drums. Now from there, you can start making backing tracks. So here is the simplest way that I make backing track. So I'll usually write a guitar part and I'll record it. So you can see that here, this red track, this is the full guitar part. But if I'm making a backing track, I kind of think of it like a real band. So we've got the drums, and then when I play live, my guitar is panned to the right. So I'm the right guitar. So I've got my part that I'm playing, but then I'll record another guitar part that is playing the left guitar. So this would represent the other guitarist in the band, okay? So real quick, I might even, let me see if I can play along with this. So I'll kind of show you what we got going on here. So basically, this red track, this is like the other guitarist's part, okay? So let's look at what he's playing. We're just gonna look at the guitar. So he's playing the intro. He's playing that riff. And then I'm gonna come in and join in. We're both playing the same part. Okay, so when we get to the verse, we're both still playing the same part. We're playing... Okay, so we're going to play that for the verse. And here's where it gets a little interesting. So again, I'm kind of treating this like a real band scenario. So now there's a lead part. There's a new guitar part that comes in. So what's going to happen is I'm going to keep playing the same part, but the other guitarist is going to play this new part. Okay? So when we play together, that sounds like this. Sorry, actually I'm playing it wrong. I have a new part. So instead of playing the same thing, now I'm just going to play the root note. So that's what I'm supposed to play, and then he's playing that other part. Okay, so so kind of like that's what would happen in a real situation. The other guitarist would play that part, and you know I would play that part. And usually, the way I choose what parts I'm playing, remember I have to sing at the same time. So usually I'll choose like the simpler part, so I can sing over it a little bit easier, and I'll let the backing track do the the lead. But it depends, you know. Sometimes I can do that stuff while singing. It just depends on what's most practical or what makes the most sense. So in the chorus, we both play the same part. It's just that main riff. And yeah, so basically I will record one guitar part that represents the other guitar or the other guitarist, and I'll just pan that to the left. Cool. Let me catch up with the chat here real quick. Adam's saying some great information there, mate. You could snip this section out of the stream later and post as a Logic drum program tutorial for another YouTube video. I might do that. Sometimes I'm a little like, I don't know. I used to do a lot of tutorials, and when you post a lot of tutorials, then people just expect tutorials from you, you know. So I like sharing, you know, my process. That's kind of how I view this. Is yes, it's informative and educational, but I may do that though. That is a good suggestion, and maybe this is a way I can kind of get around that, where I'm not just making a tutorial, but it's kind of based on my music and stuff. So maybe that's a way I could make that work. But thanks. Silas says nice work. Well, thank you. So so that's kind of, so now we've got a drummer in our band. We've got the other guitarist, and then we've got me. So let's go ahead and play with that real quick. So I'm going to play along, and here's what our band sounds like so far. I could do anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. And there's a little more to it. It's going to go into the chorus again, and then I've got a little outro here. But you get the idea. Now, of course, it sounded pretty good, but it sounded a little thin, and that's because we don't have any bass in there. Now, you can record a bass track. In fact, some of my backing tracks, some of my older ones, the bass part is already recorded for them. I'm going to make a little switch here. I'm actually going to crouch down because I'm leaning over. I'm feeling in my back a little bit. All right. Let me make sure I'm still in good view there. All right, cool. Okay, so let's get some bass. So again, some of my older tracks, I have recorded the bass part, so you can record your own bass part. But lately, I've actually been sticking with program bass, and here's what I'll say about that. So first off, I think if you're making demos, I think it is good to program your bass, and it's actually good to record along with a programmed bass, and here's why. The reason for that is because program bass is perfectly pitched. Since it's a perfect instrument, the pitch is right on. So it's very helpful to track your guitars. When you go to track your guitars for real, to play along with a programmed bass, because if you can make sure your guitar is properly tuned if it matches with that bass. If something's off, you can make that adjustment and get it to fit. So it's kind of a good reference for your tuning, and then later, after you record your guitars, then you can record a real bass if you would like to. So that's one helpful thing about program bass. But the other thing is, right now where I'm at, like, you know, just having to record bass, that's another instrument that you got to keep up with the strings. You know, you got to change the strings on that. That takes time, costs a little bit of money, and it takes more time just to have to play. It's something else you got to play and perform. And to be honest, I think, especially for the kind of music I do, the bass is kind of just there. Like, I'm not showing off with the bass or anything, so it kind of just gets the job done. So I'm kind of a fan of just programming the bass. You know, it just works really good for me. You know, maybe someday in the future, it'll work. So. And that's right. Yeah, Silas says your Meant to Live guitar tutorial was how I found your channel. So, which is nice to know. It's nice to know that actually, you know, sometimes that happens. And that was the original plan. When I was making tutorials back in the day, the plan was that hopefully people would see the tutorials and then come check out my music. But that isn't quite how it always worked. Maybe for some stuff, you know, maybe some of the tutorials, it made sense for people. If they liked the tutorial, they would also like the music. But you know, Silas, I would say you're one of the few. You know, so I'm very thankful for you. I'm very thankful that you were able to enjoy the tutorial, but you also have enjoyed the streams and my music. So definitely thankful for you. All right, so yeah, so I'm a fan of program bass. Now, the way program bass works, it's kind of the same thing as programming drums. I'll give you a little tip here. So let's say I wanted to program a bass. Let me demonstrate something real quick. So if I were to grab one of these drum beats and just drag it down into the bass track. So here's our drum beat. You can see that, all these notes here. But now they sound like bass notes. And this is programmed to be a drum beat. So this is going to sound like a catastrophe. Let's have a listen. Hear how awful that sounds? Because what's happening is that's our drum beat, but now it's being played through a bass simulator or emulator. And so it's hitting those notes and making it sound like a bass, but it's being played like a drum set. And it's just hitting a bunch of random notes. So that's not what we want. But what we do want, we could basically delete all these other notes. We can just keep one note. So let me, going to select, delete. Going to select all those, delete them. Going to select all of these. And delete them. So we got just one note. Okay, so now what we can do is we can program our bass part. So this part, you kind of got to know your notes a little bit. So on guitar, I'm doing a power chord on C sharp, or I guess D flat, so that note. Okay, and I think we're holding it out for 1, 2, and. So I think that's the length right there. So let's have a listen. Yeah, so there's our note. Okay, so we're holding that out, and then I can actually copy that if I select, hold on. If you select the pencil tool in Logic Pro, I can hit that note, and now I can write it in. So if I go to C, and I go to this next little spot right here, there we go. There's our next note. So it should start sounding like a bass. cool. So, yeah, so there we go. We've got, and basically you would just draw in the notes. You would pick the notes that you want the bass to play. So I'm going to undo all that, and because we need our drum beat. Let me get that back in place. There we go. So I've already programmed in the bass. Let me bring it down. So here's what it'll actually look like. So that's what our bass looks like. So we're playing that D flat, and we've got C, and we're coming up to, what is that, an F? Yeah, and then E flat, and then we're going to go from C and then quickly jump up to G flat. Yep. So there we go. So here's what our bass sounds like. Now I'm going to show you something. That next little line there, that boo-doo-doo-doo kind of thing. Now again, bass, kind of like the drums, like it sounds pretty good, but when you start doing a lot of fancy stuff like that, it can start to sound a little robotic, a little fake. So usually when you're hitting a lot of these higher notes, you can adjust the velocity and kind of get it to sound a little more realistic. So you can grab, in Logic Pro there is a velocity tool, and so if I select this note, and I turn the velocity down, there we go, it'll start to sound softer. So those higher notes will usually sound a little better when you turn the velocity down. Yeah, it's a little bit smoother. It's not quite so harsh. Now, I'm not going to do that for the whole song right now, but we'll just deal with that for now. And here's the other nice thing. So you can do this with both drums and bass, or any part. You know, whenever you make a part, if that part repeats later in the song, you can copy and paste it. So I'll give you an example. If I skip ahead, here's our chorus. This part right here, this is just like the intro. It's going to cut short. Okay, so I'm going to select these last two bass parts from the end of the chorus. I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to go back to our intro where we don't have any bass, and I'm going to paste it. Boom, there we go. So now when it kicks in, the bass is going to kick in with it. So I'll play with it again, and let's have a listen to how our song is sounding. Didn't mean to hit that. Once believed I could be anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. Never realized just how lonely things could be. Now I'm crying. Bathroom floor like spilled milk, with a messy storage moment till I self-destruct. No one here to clean me up. Of course. Like a plastic. All right, so now we're rocking. We kind of got what sounds like a band, you know? All right. Let's see here. Yep, just catching up with the chat. Silas says, thanks a lot. Yep, my pleasure. Thank you. All right, so for the most part, that's really all you need. You just need a guitar part that you would pan to the left. Your guitar part would be pan to the right. I think right now I'm center, but yeah, normally... yeah, let me pan that to the right real quick. So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll show you one more time. You might not even notice if you're like watching through a phone or something. But yeah, so the other guitar is panned to the left, I'm panned to the right. I was in the middle. So now it's just a little more spread out. Yeah. So if you're listening through headphones or any kind of stereo speakers, that usually sounds a little better. It probably would, yeah, it probably would sound a little better through a phone speaker as well, but usually a phone's going to play it back mono, so it's not going to make like a huge difference. So that's kind of the main thing I would do, and after that, I'd basically have a backing track. One other thing that I did for this song particularly that I don't always do, sometimes I'll add extra layers to kind of give a little more oomph to a section. So if I want this chorus to just hit really hard, the guitar part is, we're playing a power chord, and then we're playing a higher one. But it's kind of a small chord, and I've done courses before where I'm playing these really big chords, and that's just covering a wider range of notes, which can make your song sound a lot fuller. It gives it a lot more punch. So I'll actually track in these guitar layers, and I don't really consider this like another guitar part. It's almost more like, I don't know, like some icing on the cake. So I'll let you hear what this sounds like. So this is just like some sauce just to add to the chorus. So it's this kind of high guitar part. And I've got two of those recorded. I've got one recorded and panned to the left, and one recorded and panned to the right. And that's just meant to be like an extra layer. So I think all it's playing... Yeah, there we go. Just these notes. Whoop. So it's just kind of blending in with the riff. But it does a lot to add in, kind of make it sound fuller. So for example, I'll play the other guitar. Here's what it sounds like without the extra layer. And here's what it sounds like with it. Which, to be honest, it might actually be a little quiet. Let me turn that up just a little bit. I kind of had to mix this in a rush when I did it last time. So, but it shouldn't be like super noticeable, but it should be like just a little bit there. Oh yeah, you definitely notice. So I'll kind of turn it on and off, and you'll notice. So when it's on, it just kind of widens it, and you'll definitely hear when we all play together. So I'll play along with that, because I've got one on my side also. So it kind of elevates the guitars a little bit and gives everything more fullness. Yeah, so there we go. Now I'm wondering if that was too loud. And actually, my guitar wasn't panned to the right, so... Yeah, I might turn it back down, actually. At first, I was thinking it was too quiet, but it might be good enough. Because I just want it to be, like, enough to sort of elevate the guitars, but I don't want it to sound like it's another guitar part. And you know what? I don't even know if I was coming through. maybe that was the problem. Let me try that one. Yeah, so it's subtle, but it's enough there just to kind of elevate the guitars a little bit, give them a nice little lift. Adam says, I'm still working on the singing while playing guitar, definitely getting there. Practice makes perfect. Yeah, and I can't remember, I might have mentioned this last time, but it definitely just, you kind of just got to put in the time. Like, you just kind of practice one section, and you sing one line, and kind of work on the coordination of singing that line, and you just keep looping it over and over, and once that's feeling good, you move on to the next line, and you basically just rinse and repeat that until you can get through a whole verse. And the nice thing is, usually once you get one section, it carries over, so if you get verse 1, then usually verse 2 is going to be a lot easier. Even though it's different words, the coordination's basically the same. And then same thing, once you got the chorus, it's the same for every other chorus in the song. So it's really not that much that you have to learn, but it is a slightly tedious process, and it's going to vary from song to song. Some songs it's going to be super easy to get the coordination, and then some songs it's going to take a little more work. I think when I got a song called "Waiting," and it's in 5/4, so it's kind of a tricky riff, and so trying to sing with that, so This is where we are. Where else have... Like, I can do it pretty comfortably now, but I'm pretty sure I remember when I was first learning how to do that, it was just so... Just learning how to do that, and then... So... This is... There, that note. This is... Whoops. This is where we... I think that's right. Yeah, now I'm like second guessing myself, but I had to kind of pick it out. And this is where we are. This is where we are. Yeah, now I'm overthinking it, but that's the nice thing. Like, once you learn it, you know, you don't have to think about it anymore. But it can definitely be a tedious process when you're first learning how to do that. But you'll get it, you know. Keep working on it, and you will get it. All right. So there we go. So that's kind of a basic version of what we would have. You know, I've got, like, a full song here. Let me record, like, one more part. I've got an ending here that I don't have. The guitar part's not quite finished, so let's listen to that. Got the pause. Gonna go back to this riff. And then it needs to continue that riff, so let me record the ending. So I'm actually going to do a little guitar recording here. Here we go. All right, might not have been perfect, but it'll be good enough for the example. And that's the thing, too, is like, when you're making a demo, you just kind of got to get an idea of what the song is. And usually for the streams, I usually try to get something pretty good, but I don't stress too much. Like, I just try to get it good enough. And then when I'm doing the actual song, that's when I'm a bit more tedious of the recording. Let's listen to what that sounded like. Even though it really doesn't matter, I'm going to try to tweak something. Also, keep in mind, this other track, like, you could kind of hear a tone shift because I probably have older strings on this, and I probably had fresher strings when I originally recorded that. But I'm not going to worry about that. I think I just want to play it a little differently. I think I'm going to go... I think that's what I meant to do, so let me try that again. All right, that should be good enough. Whoa, not that. There we go. And I'm just using a scissor tool to trim off the parts I don't need. And I'm dragging it down to where I need it. And let's listen. All right, good enough. Yeah, which I think I actually tweaked that part a little bit for the actual song, but whatever. This is kind of just a short version of the actual song. Got a question here from Adam asking, do you pan your guitars all the way left and right? I do, but I know some people pan 45. Yes, I pan all the way, and I've heard different things. Here's kind of the thing about panning. The truth is that most people, when they hear your music back, they're probably going to listen through a phone or some kind of speaker. Very rarely are people actually listening in stereo. Usually, like the only way to actually get stereo is if they're listening in headphones or if they're listening to stereo speakers and they're right in front of them. Because even stereo speakers, if they're, across the room, by the time it gets to them, it's basically mono. So there isn't a whole lot of reason to pan in between. Panning's very helpful, but basically, the technique I use is called LCR panning, which is left, right, center. And yes, it's hard panning. Either everything is either center, all the way to the left, or all the way to the right. You know, nothing 45 degrees or anything like that. And, you know, nothing against that. And there actually is a slight exception. My drums are not fully left and right. My drums do kind of fill some of that space. I think for my drums, my kick, snare, and middle tom are all up the middle. And then the high tom is slightly off to one side. The low tom is slightly off to the other side. The left and right cymbals, they might be hard left and right. I actually can't remember off the top of my head. And then same thing with like the hi-hat and the ride. They're kind of slightly. So it's still very symmetrical. But that's the only element in my mixes that is slightly panned. But anything else, I either just do it straight up the middle or all the way to the left and all the way to the right. And usually my mixes are very symmetrical, so if I do hard pan it, it's because I plan to have something panned all the way to the other side. So yes, so like guitars, I'm going to have them panned left and right, which actually kind of leads nicely into the next topic here. Because this is an example, basically what we just made here, this is an example of like a basic backing track that I would make. I would make this, I would bounce it out, and this would be what I use for my live streams, okay? So one example is that verse where the other guitar switches parts. So right there, we're not playing the same part. He's panned all the way to the left, I'm panned all the way to the right, and we're playing two different parts. But if I were to actually produce this song, that's not what I would do. What I would do is I would still have my part. I'll play it real quick. I would have my part. And I would record that twice and pan it left and right. And then I would take his part. And I would pan that twice. I would record that twice and pan it left and right. So everything's nice and symmetrical. And that's kind of what we're going to get into. So we're going to look at, I'm actually going to scroll ahead, and I have a copied version of the same song, but we're gonna have a few tweaks in there. Let me do something real quick. Copy this, and I'm going to paste this right here. Okay. So I'm going to have to do a little more recording because I don't have all the parts I need. But let's look at this arrangement over here. So this is the same arrangement, but now I wanted to demonstrate the difference between like a basic backing track that I would do and then what would be a more finished product. Now this isn't exactly finished, but this is kind of a nice little example of what kind of changes might be between the two. Okay. So, what we got? We've got the basic drum beat, that top track, it's still the same drum beat. Now, normally when I produce a song, I actually like to divide all the drum parts into their own track. So there's a track fully designated just for the kick, and there's a track just for the snare, and there's a track just for the toms. Each tom, high tom, middle tom, every single part of the kit, there's an individual track for it. So right now, I just have all my drums in one track. But if you split them up, that gives you a little more control over those elements. So it's a little easier to, because sometimes, right now, if we're listening to it, we might say like, that hi-hat's a little loud, but we don't really have a way to turn it down, at least not easily. But if it was in its own track, all we got to do is just grab the fader, turn it down a little bit. It's that simple, And then sometimes you might say, oh, that kick sounds a little thin. It needs more body to it. Well, if we have everything on one track, there's not much we can do about that. But if it's on its own track, then we can add an EQ, and we can find a nice kind of low frequency and boost that and add a little more body to our kick, or whatever the situation might be. So that's something that I would normally do, but for this example, I went ahead and just kept it all in one track. The other thing I would do, though, is I would send all those drum parts into a drum room. So that's something I want to demonstrate real quick. So right now we've got a drum beat. I'm going to go ahead and play. Let me mute everything else. Yeah, let me just play our drum beat. Whoops. Okay. So our drum beat sounds pretty good, but one thing you might not realize until you start comparing it to like a pro mix or something, our drum beat actually sounds kind of dry, and that's because there's no drum room. When real drums are recorded, usually they do it with microphones, and the mic is going to pick up some of the room. In fact, they usually have a room mic. So what I will often do, if you look at the second track here, it's called Room. And this is a very simple version. I kind of do a slightly more elaborate version when I do it for real, but I did just a simple one to demonstrate. But basically all I've done is I've taken this track here, this drum beat that we've dialed in, and I've copied it and I've pasted it into this second track, this room track. And then on the room track, here's our mixer. So if you can see this right here, all this, this is our mixer. Here's our faders. You can see some are down, like that's at -14, that's at -15, that's right at 0. So this is the faders control the volume, and then if I scroll up, these little blue boxes here, these are all the different plugins. So it's different like EQs or compressors or whatever it might be used. It's different tools for creating different sounds. So I'm not going to go too in depth, but if I go to our room track, and I'm going to unmute that, probably the main tool that I have on here is what's called Space Designer. This comes with Logic Pro. Let me see if it shows up. No, it's not showing up. Let me see if I can get it to show up. One second. I'll show you what this looks like real quick. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is it's a reverb plugin, and I'll try to bring it up so you can see it. One second. Where is it at? Trying to find it. This might be it. There we go. Okay, I found it. There we go. So now you should be able to see it. All right, so that's a reverb plugin. Now there's different plugins. They're not all going to look like this. But all this is, this particular plugin, it's called Space Designer. It basically adds your sound to a space. So there's different kinds of reverb. You know, you can find like really long, boomy, like arena kind of reverbs, or you can find very short, almost like you're in a small room kind of reverb. So this is one that sounds really good. Basically what I've done is I've turned, usually with reverbs, you're going to have two signals. You're going to have a dry signal and a wet signal. The wet signal is the actual reverb. So dry is the direct sound, so the actual sound of the drum kit. And then the wet signal, or the reverb symbol, that's signal, that is the reflection. You know, after you make the sound, like when you go, hey, and then the echo, the hey, 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 you know, that's the reverb. But what I'll do is I'll turn the dry all the way down. So this track, we're not getting any of the attack from the drums. All we're going to get is just the reflection. All we're going to get is just the room sound from the drums. So I'll go ahead and play just the room track, and you'll hear what that sounds like. So again, we have our drum beat on here, but it's going to sound like very echoey. So it almost sounds like it's, you know, like in the next room or something like that, you know. And what happens is you take this and you turn it down, way down in your mix, and you blend it in with the dry drums. So now we've got our actual drum kit, and we've got the room. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play them both together, and I'm going to mute and unmute the room. I'm going to turn it on and off. And you should hear, when it's on, the drums get a little bit wider. It kind of fills in some of that space. And when I turn it off, it's like the drums get small, and they sound kind of well, kind of dry, you know. So let's have a listen. I hope this plays, because I'm starting to get some processing problems. All right, let's try this again. Especially listen to like the snare. It's got like more smack, and it's just kind of dead. All right, so I hope you guys can hear the difference. If you're wearing headphones, you can definitely hear it. And again, I kind of just mixed this like super quickly, so in an ideal scenario, I would take more time to dial it in properly. But that reverb does a lot to really widen your drums and make them a lot bigger. So that's a very helpful thing to have. So pretty much the easiest way to make that, you just make a second track, copy and paste your drums to it, and then just add reverb to it, turn the dry signal down, turn the wet signal all the way up, and then just turn it down in the mix. One other little tip I'll give you, usually in your drum rooms, you don't want a whole lot of kick drum or toms. So if you can actually you can highlight the file, the MIDI file, and if you bring that up, again, let me scoot ahead. So there we go. So there's our drum beat. Here's all our notes. You can actually see I've already done it. These purple dots, that's C, that's our kick drum. They're purple because they change color when you change the velocity on Logic Pro, just to tell you, just so you can visually see, oh, that's been turned down. I turned it all the way down. I turned the kick down as far as it would go. And I did the same thing with the toms. Here's our toms right here. I turned them down as far as they would go. And even the hi-hat was a little loud. I turned that down some. So, yeah, you usually want those down. It's mainly the snare and the cymbals that you kind of want coming through the room. You don't really want a whole lot of kick or toms. That can sound kind of messy. Okay, so there we go. So we got room. So that kind of makes the drums a little bigger, a little fuller sounding. Our bass is basically going to stay the same. Now, here's where the guitars might be a little different. So one, when I'm performing live, when I'm producing a track, you might have like little moments that are sort of like effects. So what I've got here, I've got this telephone track. So remember our intro guitar? I'll play it here. Remember this part? Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this for the actual song, but I thought, it'd be kind of cool to do like a filtered effect on that. It'd be kind of cool to do a telephone effect. And I'll tell you how to make that effect, but so that's what I've got. My guitar is now on this filtered effect, and then it's going to kick into the actual song. So let's hear what that sounds like. And you can hear it's like kind of a nice little setup, and then when it kicks in, it just boom, it just explodes. So that's a really great effect. Like when you want to have like a big explosive moment, having that like telephone effect happen before. So it's just one guitar. It's a telephone. It's right up the center, and it's turned down fairly quiet. Usually I'll listen in mono, or I'll listen through headphones, and I'll try to get it like, I want it loud enough where you can hear it, but you don't want it to be louder than when everything kicks in. Like you want it to be kind of just loud enough, but when everything kicks in, it should sound like pretty explosive. So you want to find that good balance there. So yeah, so that's a pretty cool effect. Now the way you do that, again, I don't know if I'm really going to be able to demonstrate this on here, but I'll kind of tell you, there's really two things that you need. So one, probably the easiest thing you would need is just an EQ, which I don't know if you guys know what an EQ is. EQ is short for equalizer, and an equalizer is, one second, an equalizer is basically just a volume knob for different frequencies. So instead of turning the whole volume up and down, you could say, here we go. There's my EQ right there. So it looks kind of crazy. It's this graph, but what it is, from left to right, it's showing the left side is the low frequencies down here, and then this upside is the high frequencies. So instead of turning all of the volume up and down, you could say, that this instrument, it has too much low end. It's kind of boomy sounding. So you could go to these low frequencies, and you could turn the low frequencies down so that it's not quite so boomy. Or vice versa. You might say it's a little harsh, so you might go to the high frequencies and turn those down. Or it's a little dull. It needs more air. It needs more brightness. So you go to the high frequencies and you turn them up. So that's all it is. It's just a volume switch for different EQ frequencies. So to get that telephone effect, you want to cut out like all the low end. So I've got it scooped up to about 325 hertz. That's the number there. So no sub frequencies, no like boomy bass. That's all cut out. So it's very thin sounding. But we don't want a whole lot of high end. So I've got the high end cut down. I'm rolling it off at about 2,300 hertz. So all we've got, this section here in the middle, it's just that mid-range stuff. So it's very thin sounding. It kind of has that sort of telephone tiny speaker sound. And then I've got a few boosted frequencies just to help it come through a little clearer. And then let's see here. One second. And then after that, usually it's good to have some distortion. So like if you run it through like a guitar amp first, so maybe run it through like a very crunchy guitar amp. And again, you don't really need a lot of low end in the guitar amp, but some kind of amp sim, if you run it through that first and kind of add some distortion to it, and then you add that EQ, that helps create that telephone effect. You can get more elaborate and do more, but that is a very cool effect. It's a good one to use. You can use it on vocals also. Really any instrument. You can use it on drums, vocals, anything. So usually it's helpful. It's a pretty helpful tool to have. All right, so there we go. So we got an intro there. And again, it just kind of makes the intro sound a little more interesting. And when the song kicks in, it sounds bigger. But we're going to change up a few things. So, well, we're going to add one more thing. Well, let's look at the guitars first, and then I'll talk about other things we add. So remember, last time when we played the verse, both guitar parts are playing the same thing. So when we're at this part, I'll go ahead and play it. We're just playing the same thing. And then this next part, the guitar changes, and originally I play something different and then the other guitar plays the lead part. But usually in the finished mix, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So firstly, I still want that to play, I actually want that to match me. So I want that to play the same part I'm playing. So that's going to make my part sound a little bigger. So let me go ahead and record that because I actually don't have that. So here we go. Okay, so I recorded that, and I'm just going to snip off the ends here and get that part and drag it down. Okay, so let's hear what that sounds like. Again, that'll work. So now when I'm playing with it, it's going to sound bigger. So we're both playing the same part. But we still want that lead part in there. And I'm not playing the lead part, so what we're going to do is we've already got one, but we need to record another one, and we're going to pan it the other way. So we've got one that's panned to the left, and we've got it on a new track. We've got it on this lead guitar track, and then we're going to make another one and pan it to the right. Now let me see if I can remember how to play this part. I might have to relearn it real quick. So 1 second. Trying to remember how I played that. I'm not sure how I did that. So that's one thing too. You know, I'll record these parts, and then when I go to record this song for real, I'll have to relearn how to play that. Let me listen to it real quick. Okay, so I slid up. I went. So that's all I did. All right, I think I know close enough what it is. It'll work for this example. So let me go ahead and record that part. Here we go. Let's get a drum beat in there. That helps. All right, here we go. Take two. Did it first try. Okay. And again, I'm just doing good enough for now. Not worried about getting it perfect. All right, now let's see. I'm hoping this is going to be loud enough, but let's have a listen. I think it's okay. Let me try playing with it. I would probably turn that up. I'm going to do something. So the problem is I've got it on the same track as those other layers. If you remember me talking earlier, I had these kind of... these layers, but they're not really, it's not really another guitar part. It's more like just some icing to add to the main guitar part. So that part I want quiet, but I want this lead part to be a little bit louder. So I'm just going to do some fancy stuff. What I'm doing right now, if you can see, I'm doing automation, which means I'm actually telling, when we play the timeline, basically I'm programming the volume for this part of the song. So the volume's going to turn up while that lead part's playing, and then when the chorus kicks in, the volume is going to return to where we had it. So let me get that in place. And we'll turn it up like 3 dB. So right now it's at minus 25, so let's try like, yeah, minus 21.9. It actually really bugs me how it does like the 0.9s and stuff. I like, you know, 10s and 5s. So I wish it would just be 22, you know, just even, but 21 point, there we go. So, and that really bugs me. So this one we got on 22, and then the left track is 21.9. So they're not the exact same. They're close enough, like no one's going to notice, but it bugs me. I just wish they were both 22. But anyway, rant over. Let's hear how that sounds. Now they're coming through a little more obvious. So there we go. So let me demonstrate real quick. Let's see here. Let me catch up with the chat. Just make sure I'm not missing something. I feel like I've seen all this. Oh, Fab's in the chat. Yeah, I was like, something. I feel like something's new here. Sometimes I get you and Silas confused because both of your profiles are orange. But happy 4th, Fab. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying a good burger, and maybe you'll get to see some fireworks later. Yeah, I'm just kind of showing how I make my backing track. So I was just recording a few layers here. Let me show you the difference real quick. So in the sort of demo version, it's just my guitar and the other guitar. So my guitar is panned to the right, the other guitar is panned to the left. So here's what that sounds like. You know what? I still played that part wrong. My bad. So that's what that sounds like, but then a more finished version will sound like this. Instead of my guitar being on the right and the other guitar being on the left, my guitar is still going to be on the right, but now there's going to be another part on the left that matches my part, and then the lead part that the other guitar was playing, rather than just being on the left, that is also going to be on the right, so it's going to be a much bigger sound. Yeah, so back to back, here's the first one. And here's the new one. It's a lot fuller. know, it's just filling up a lot more. It's a lot wider sounding. And remember, we've got that drum room that we added also. So now our mix is like really filling up. And I think that's just about it for layers. So that's kind of what we would have for guitar. And then the last thing that we would maybe add, this is something I like to do from time to time. We might add a synth pad to the chorus. So here's our chorus right here. I'll go ahead and play it. Okay, sounds fine, but a nice way that you can add like a little lift to it and kind of add just a little more excitement, you can use a pad. Fab says no fireworks because of fire, or no works because of fire. Was that supposed to be a dad joke, like no works because I got fired or something? Or do you mean there's because there was a fire and there's going to be no fireworks? So, either way. Sorry, you're not going to be able to enjoy that. But it sounds like you're saying, I'm also hanging with family. We got burgers and hot dogs. That sounds like the right way to do it. So, yeah, definitely enjoy that. Let's see here. Okay, so to add a little more excitement, sometimes I'll add a pad. So I've got this one here. This is one, I actually used this on my song Brothers to the End. Sounded pretty cool, so I'm going to use it for this song. And all it's going to do, it's just going to hold one note, but it's got a lot of texture to it. It's got a lot of atmosphere, and it's just going to hold this really high note that just kind of sits above everything. But we're going to turn it down in the mix, so it's not going to be super obvious, but it is going to add a lot of air to the mix. So I'm going to mute everything else so you can just hear what it sounds like on its own. So here's the pad. So very spacey. It's got kind of some texture to it, some grit. So that kind of blends in nicely with everything else. So again, I'll play it with everything else, and I'll kind of turn it on and off. And it's not like super obvious. Like if you didn't know it was there, you might not even hear it. But when I turn it off, you'll notice like, oh wow, something's missing now. Like the mix becomes a little smaller, a little drier. So I'll kind of turn it on and off, and you'll hear what it sounds like. So here we go. Off, on. Like you can definitely tell. Like so again, I'll go ahead and just play it with it. Like it's there, it's not super obvious. Now, again, my guitar isn't playing right now, so you can hear it pretty good in the right ear. If I play with it, it's not going to be super obvious, but it's just obvious enough that it makes a difference. If you turn it off, the mix isn't quite as exciting, but when you add it in there, it really elevates it and brings a lot of energy. So here's what that sounds like. Helps to have my guitar on. Let's try that again. Here we go. You get that nice little tail off at the end there, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's like a fun effect that is just a nice layer to add that adds some stuff. Hey, we got Gary Camp Gmay in the chat. Hey, I hope you're doing well. I'm just kind of demonstrating how I make my backing tracks. Just been going over that for the whole stream. Let's see. Fab was saying fire in Northern California. Well, dang, I hope they get that under control. I am under evacuation warning. Well, be safe. I hope you're not too close to the danger there. Silas says, speaking of synths, what's your favorite band that uses a keyboard? That's a good question. I'd have to think on that. Okay. It's probably Between the Buried and Me. Between the Buried and Me, they have a keyboard player. Actually, I think their bassist sometimes plays the keyboard as well. But yeah, they make great use of like weird sounds and synth and stuff. So I'm pretty sure they're my favorite. Now, there are some other bands that use elements. I don't know if they use keyboards live. Again, like the band Red, I know they have piano. I don't know if they actually have like some keyboard synth elements in their music, but if they did do that live, that'd be pretty cool. Trying to think who else. And like the Faceless, I think they play with like backing tracks, but I don't know if they actually use keyboards with their band. But Between the Bear to Me, I know they do, and they're one of my favorites, so I would say them. But what about you, Silas? Do you have a favorite band that uses a keyboard? And to the rest of you, Gary, Fab, if any of you have a favorite band that uses a keyboard, let me know. So anyone just tuning in, I'll kind of get you caught up. I was sharing how I make my backing tracks. That's what we're looking at here. This is the recording software that I use when I make stuff. So this top track here, this line, that's my drum beat. So that's that, and then this red track here, this is the other guitar part, so this is panned fully to the left. And then I'll play along with that, but my guitar is panned fully to the right. So we got two guitars. And then right here, this track, this is our bass. And it is a programmed bass. There are things you can do to kind of add a little more realism to it. This is just a demo. But when I actually go to produce this track, I'd probably put a little more detail into it to make it sound more realistic. But basically, when I write a song, writing the song is just the first part. And once the song's written, it's basically ready to be performed. And then releasing it takes a little more work. You have to kind of go into a bit more detail. So this is almost like the first draft. I don't worry too much about the detail and making it super realistic. I just dial it in. And then, yeah, so here's what it would sound like playing with this. I could be anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. So you get the idea. So it works. It's like it's a pretty good quality demo. Sounds good. I've been using that setup for a lot of stuff. For a lot of the songs I haven't released, that's pretty much all that's going on with my backing tracks. But then if we scoot ahead, I copy and pasted all this. So here's the same stuff. But this is a little closer to maybe what a finished sound would sound like. And there's a few extra things happening here. So we still have our drum beat. Now, in a real scenario, I would actually split up the drum beat into different tracks. Like each part of the drum kit, the kick drum, the snare drum, the cymbals, they would all be in their own track. And that gives me a little more control to really dial in the perfect settings and get the right balance for the drum kit. But I would also add a drum room. So I'll play that real quick. Here's the drum room. Sorry, getting some system overloads here. I'll try playing that again. So it's just got some reverb. So if I add that to the main drums, I'll turn it on and off, and you'll hear it just kind of widens the drums and gives them a little more life. They don't sound so dry and so plain and boring. So especially like those cymbals and stuff, like they fill up more space, especially if you're listening in headphones. So adding a drum room kind of helps bring in a little more life. Let's see here, and I'll continue in just a moment. Wanted to catch up with the chat. Let's see here. Fab was saying half a mile away it burned. I am safe. Well, I'm glad you're safe. Please stay that way. My favorite band with keyboard is Yes. That's a good choice. Yeah, they have some great music. I've listened to some of their stuff. I need to check out more of them, but yeah, they are. And that's right. Yep. Quoting what is it? School of Rock. Yes, that's the name of the band. Listen to it. It'll blow the classical music out your butt. That's a great movie. Silas says, my favorite that uses a keyboard or piano is Queen. Now, if you're saying piano, that's a little different than just synth and keyboard and stuff. Because, yeah, if you said piano, again, Red's a great band that uses piano. Ben Folds is an actual piano band, like a piano artist. But But yeah, Queen is a great example. So I think that's a good example. But yes, Queen is a great band. So anyway, continuing. We got the drums. We got the drum room. Bass is pretty much the same, but again, I would dial in more realism and that kind of thing. And then for the guitars, rather than the left guitar playing its own part, now the left guitar is going to match my part. I'll be playing on the right side. And then we have 2 more guitar tracks, a left and right guitar track, that are playing any lead parts, any additional parts. So that would sound like this. So those are panned hard left and right, and that just brings a lot more fullness to the song. And then lastly, some synth stuff. That just comes in during the chorus, the main riff, and just kind of brings in some energy. So let's play through this. Let's see what it sounds like. Forgot about that. And then also like effects, so like this telephone effect. So now the intro, rather than just being a normal guitar playing by itself, we're going to add this little telephone effect, and it's going to sound really big once we go from this to the full band. I could be anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. Never realized just how lonely things would be. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk, with a messy story, just moments till I self-destruct, with no one here to clean me up. Someone show me some love, tell me that I am good enough. I'm poured out, all it's filled me up, still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. There we go, and there's our little short mini sample demo version of that. Now there's one more thing that the finished versions would have. And by the way, this is like a very condensed version of it. There's a lot more processing that goes into it to get everything sounding as best as possible. But this is kind of at least an idea of what a more finished version sounds like compared to just a raw fundamental demo version. But one other thing that the finished track would have is background vocals as well. And I might try some. Let's give it a shot. I'll see if I can squeeze in a few real quick. But I do think we're going to be putting a wrap on this stream in just a moment here. And I don't even know if this is going to work. So I'm going to try to record some vocals. And good gosh, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to see if I can make at least 2 tracks. So give me just a second here. I'm going to move this chair out of the way. Oh, my gosh. All right. So I'm going to do a few things. I'm adding an audio track, and I'm actually going to add 2 of those. Well, I'm going to do 1 for now. And again, I'm bringing up the mixer. So here's this highlighted one. This is my track right here. And I'm using some key commands. I'm going to copy and paste. Let me see. So I'm going to need 2 hands for that. So I'm just grabbing these. These are plugins. They're different tools just to affect the audio. There we go. I'm going to turn these on. And then I'm going to make a copy, a duplicate of that one. So I'm going to select that track, making a duplicate. There we go. And we're going to pan 1 to the left and pan 1 to the right. And let's see here. Then I just need to make sure they're going to the right output. Again, all complicated stuff that you guys don't need to worry about. I'm basically just trying to demonstrate how this functions in the band. But basically, what you might do in a song, you don't just record the main vocal. You might record like harmonies and background vocals. Now for this example, I'm going to keep things super simple, and we're not going to worry about recording a whole bunch of vocal layers, but we'll try to get a couple in there, and I'll try singing along with them. So what we might do is, usually the verses you want sounding smaller, and then you want it getting bigger. So maybe we'll sing the first verse by itself. So when we get to this verse, I once believed I could be anything, took a chance and chased a dream, never realized just how lonely things would be. But right here, it'd be cool to have some background vocals. Now, I haven't actually figured out what I want those background vocals to be yet, so I'm just going to make up something. But it might be like a lower harmony. Da-na-na-na. I'm going to try doing like a fifth harmony, so I'm going to try, now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story. Let's see what that sounds like. So we'll give this a shot. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I can record vocals. We'll find out. Here we go. Wish me luck. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story, just moments till I self-destruct with no one here to clean me up. All right, let's see if that worked. I'm gonna drag it here. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk. All right, so not like an awesome performance, but it'll get the job done. I got to do that twice, so I'm going to sing it again. Here we go. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story, just moments till I self-destruct with no one here to clean me up. All right, so we've got our backing vocals. I'm going to trim them up a little bit. Might have to turn them down, but I just want to demonstrate what these guys are going to do. They might be too loud right now. Okay, let's have a listen in the mix. I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk. And probably too much reverb, but I'm not going to stress about that right now. Let me turn these down. I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story. I feel like the right one is louder than the left one. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe the gain wasn't the same. Let me see something real quick. I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story. Okay, I think they're outputting to different places. 1 second. Not sure why that's... Yeah. Sorry. Things. Let me fix them. All right, let's give that a shot. I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk with a messy story, moments till I self-destruct with no one here to clean me up. The only thing I'm confused about, they sound mono to me. They don't sound like they're coming out stereo. What is the dealio with that? Maybe some of the plugins are mono. That says stereo. Okay. So I'm not sure why. I'm not going to stress trying to figure it out. So ideally, it would be nice and wide. You know, one would be panned left and one would be panned right. Not really sure why that doesn't seem to be the case right now. Should be going to bus 6. Yep, yep. Yeah, not really sure why it's not doing that. But either way, there's our backing track, or backing vocals. So now I'll just sing the regular part as I play along with it. So here we go. You guys couldn't even hear me. I'm sorry. Hitting all kinds of wrong stuff. Hey, Metalhead Hippie. Good to see you. All right, let me demonstrate this real quick. So we got some background vocals in there. So the first verse is just going to be me. I once believed I could be anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. Never realized just how lonely. Here comes the background vocals. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk, with a messy story, just moments till I self-destruct, with no one here to clean me up. Now hopefully those came through okay. I don't know if they were too quiet. I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk, with a messy story. So I might turn them up a little bit, but yeah, you know, ideally you would have, turn them up a few dB. Ideally, yeah, in your finished backing track, you would have some background vocals like that, and so it sounds really nice. They come in with you for that section. So I'll try that one more time. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk. Yeah. So I guess I can't hear him. Hopefully you guys can hear him. I probably can't hear him because I'm singing, and so I'm hearing my own voice. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk, with a messy story, just moments till I self-destruct, with no one here to clean me up. And then in the chorus, we would have the same thing. We'd have some background vocals, you know. So I would be singing, with someone to show me some love. And then maybe we would do a lower harmony. With someone, just show me some love. We'll try that real quick. Let's see, anything happening in the chat? Silas was asking, any specific artists that sort of inspired Plastic Cup? Not particularly, actually. I can't remember. I actually wrote the main riff like a long time ago, or like, you know, a few years ago. I wrote it, and I just thought it sounded aggressive and was a cool riff. I actually kind of had it in mind for a collaboration with a friend of mine, but we ended up going with a different idea. And I think what happened was, basically, I've got a whole library of song ideas, you know, just little demo recordings, little riff ideas. And I was working on my lyrics, and I wrote that line, would someone just show me some love and tell me that I'm good enough? And I was trying to see what ideas I had that I felt matched the tone of the lyrics I was writing. And I came across that idea, and I thought of the melody with and I was like, hey, that's kind of catchy. And with someone, and it worked with the lyrics, so I was like, hey, I think I'm going to roll with this. So I went with that. But, yeah, you know, what I'll say is Plastic Cup was not directly inspired. I think Plastic Cup is a good example of something that I wrote, like just messing around, and you could probably hear like little tidbits of my influences in there. So there's probably like a little bit of Chevelle in there, a little bit of... the verses I actually think are a little technical, kind of this 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 dun 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 dun. It's not like tech metal exactly, but it's definitely got like some prog influence in there, even though it kind of comes off as sounding almost like a Linkin Park kind of thing. I know the song kind of has a little bit of a Linkin Park vibe, but it's not. It was not directly inspired by Linkin Park, and I actually wouldn't describe. I'd say maybe my later stuff, maybe like vocally and lyrically, Linkin Park can be a little bit of, and production-wise, they can have some influence, but I wouldn't reference them as an influence in my songwriting and like my initial riffs and stuff. So there might be a little bit of Flyleaf in there, maybe a little bit of maybe some silosis in there, you know. So it's probably just a combination of different influences and just over time. But, you know, there's some songs where it was like specifically like, oh yeah, Kill Switch Engage influenced that song. But this one, I think, was just an idea I just kind of wrote and then just kind of went with it just based off of sounds I like. So it wasn't any specific idea. All right, I'm going to try to do some background vocals for the course, and then I think we're going to put a rap on all this. So, with someone, we're going to go, with someone, just show me some love. That's the part we're going to sing, and we're going to do it twice. Here we go. With someone, just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still untossed away. All right, so there's one. I'm going to clip it. I'm going to do it like there. Okay, that'll work. And we got to do one more. I'm pissed up with no one here to clean me up. With someone, just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still untossed away. That'll work. Again, usually I'm a little more thorough with my vocal tracking, but this is just a demo. But let's see how that sounds. Here to clean me up. Someone, just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still untossed away. Cool. Now, backing vocals, they really do make a difference. Like, once you have them there, it's pretty simple, but they add a lot. So I'm going to sing it without the backing vocals, and then I'll add them in there, and hopefully you can hear like just how much they add a lot more excitement to the voice. Because if I'm just singing by myself, it's just one voice, but when you add those other layers in there, it really brings some more excitement. So let's try the chorus without backing vocals. Me up with someone, just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still untossed away. All right, same thing, but now we're going to have those backing vocals in there. No one here to clean me up. With someone, just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still untossed away like a plastic cup. So hopefully you can kind of hear how those background vocals, again, I don't know how the mix sounds out there exactly, but they kind of give you some support. They kind of reinforce the main vocal, and harmonies just sound nice. So it kind of does that. And then notice like the break, like when it goes to that scream, there's that pause there. So since there's not all these other instruments, that's where like a single voice can sound really good. So during the chorus where it's really big, there's all these layers. It's nice to have some layers for the vocals as well. But then when things cut out, like just a single voice can sound really, like that vulnerability can have a really good impact. Again, it's good to be dynamic. You know, you don't just want to try to make everything as big as possible. You want the chorus to sound big, but in order for the chorus to sound big, you got to strip things down and kind of, you got to have those smaller moments so that the big moments sound good. Thanks for the confirmation. Adam says, definitely hear the difference. Well, cool. Well, guys, I tell you what, I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. I'm actually going to have to remember some of this stuff. Again, like I haven't started producing this song yet, so I don't know what other layers I'm going to have, but considering a lot of this stuff I just came up with for this stream, actually kind of some cool ideas here, so I'll definitely have to remember them when I do go to produce this song. But let's go ahead. I'm going to play you guys out with just one last performance of this. I'm going to grab the guitar and I'll play this one more time, and then I think we're going to put a wrap on this. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this was a little different. Again, this is a fairly new segment, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do this. So by the way, if you guys have any suggestions, if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, I am planning to do an episode like this on my guitar tone, like talking about my guitar setup and just everything guitar. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming. But any other, if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about, if you're curious about, again, we've done vocals before, and usually I'll do a breakdown of whatever song I've just released. But, anything music-related, song production-wise, practice-wise, singing, it could be singing harmony, it could be playing guitar solos, it could be, bass, more drum stuff. If you have any ideas, anything you'd like to see, let me know. And again, this is a fairly new segment, but I definitely enjoy sharing this stuff, so hopefully you guys enjoy watching it. So I'm going to play you guys out with one more performance of this little mini demo version of Plastic Cup, and we'll go from there. So now we got all our stuff in there. We got like a cool little telephone intro. We got the synth pad in there in the chorus. We got the other guitar layers, and we got some backing vocals, and we got the drum room to kind of fill that out. So here we go. Believed I could be anything. Took a chance and chased a dream. Never realized just how lonely things would be. Now I'm crying on the bathroom floor like spilled milk, with the messy storage moments till I self-destruct with no one here to clean me up. Someone just show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out, all has filled me up, still and tossed away like a plastic cup. There we go. Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that, but there we go. That's kind of an overview of how I make backing tracks. So I hope that kind of gave you guys some influence and sort of an idea of what goes into that process. But I don't know. It's a lot of fun. If you guys have any interest in songwriting and that kind of thing, definitely get yourself a setup like this. Really all you need. It is helpful if you have a computer, but if you have, even on phones, like they have very compact versions. If you have like an iPhone, you can get GarageBand on your iPhone, and that's a great way to start. And then all you would need is, I think, some kind of interface that plugs into your phone and allows you to connect your guitar to your phone, so you could record that. But you could program your drum beats on your phone. You could program bass on there, and then you'd need some way to plug in a microphone. You might even be able to use the phone mic to do singing and that kind of thing. But ideally, you want like a laptop or some kind of computer. And again, you'll need an interface. All that is, interface is just a box that allows you to connect your instruments to the computer. That's all it is. And once you got that, you can, again, there's so much you can do in just the program itself. Again, all we did here was we programmed the drums, we programmed the bass, we added some synth, all that was programmed. The guitar, we had our interface, we plugged our guitar into the interface goes into the computer, and I'm actually using amp sim, so I'm creating my guitar tone all in the box, all in the computer, all in the program. And then vocals, same thing. Just a simple microphone. I actually use a different mic than this when I'm recording vocals, but this works for demos and stuff. And but mic goes into the interface. Now, technically, I have a few other things. You do need like a preamp for a microphone, so I am going into that and then into the interface. But some interfaces, like say like the Scarlett, that they have built-in preamps, so you're good. If you have the interface, it has the built-in preamp, you're all good. You can plug in a microphone and be good to go. Silas says, thanks, I've been writing, and this was very helpful if I need a backing track. Well, great. Yeah, I hope this gives you some ideas. And even in your writing, when you're recording stuff, just ideas of how to do the drums, other layers to add, and kind of what to think about when you're doing all that stuff. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Again, some exciting news if you have not yet heard. I recently just started releasing merch. So I'm going to post a link for that. But if you guys would like to show some support, there's a few ways you can do that. So this link basically takes you to everything to support me. So in that link, you will find one, you can find merch. So if you'd like to get like a cool t-shirt or a hoodie or a hat or whatever it might be, you can get some merch there, and that would be a way to support me. I appreciate that. If you just want to show direct support, there's also a virtual tip jar in that link near the bottom. So that's helpful, and I really appreciate anyone who does that. And if you want to be notified, if you want to stay notified for whenever I release new songs, when I have videos coming out, that kind of thing, then at the very bottom of that link, you'll see a place where you can sign up for my email list. Quick hello to Todd. Yeah, happy 4th, Todd. Hope you have a good Independence Day. Hope you're enjoying like a good burger and hot dogs or that kind of thing. And hopefully you might get to see some fireworks or something. But happy 4th to you. And thank you. Silas says, congrats on the merchandise. Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely excited about it and looking forward to growing and improving that. And then lastly, my biggest goal is just building my audience. So guys, for just watching, liking the videos, leaving comments, sharing my music, inviting people to the streams, sharing my streams, all that stuff. Just trying to create as much exposure to my music as possible. That's really helpful. So that really helps. Just helping me to get my music in front of more people so they can hear it, and growing our audience. That really helps. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you all have a happy 4th of July. Hope you have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Until next time.